last but obviously not least, we have Nier.
No, it's the
What?
least.
Yeah, it is the least of all these here. But yeah,
Nier,
what fun series do you have to cover for
how
us
come
today?
how come Nier gets 2-1? That's not fair.
Yeah,
We're gonna
good.
Because
see if we
both
can
of
link a
my
sound effect
series
here. Do like
equate
little.
to half of one
Oh,
series.
sick.
Yeah.
But yeah, I watched FLCL, Grunge,
Mm.
and
And
FLCL, Shoegaze. Wow.
So Nier, for us not in the know, what is a grunge and what is a shoegaze?
So grunge and shoegaze, for those of you who don't know what the concept of music are two different genres of music. Um, and that's it. That's really all.
that's
The,
part of what it makes it cool. Do you
Oh wait,
not
oh wait,
understand
they
this
have
here?
oh wait.
no
Hey, do you know who
correlation
else
on.
doesn't know what grunge and shoegaze is?
Yeah, the producers of Fulikuli, grunge and shoegaze.
Oh wait,
But
Nier, is that why it's called Fulikuli alternative, like alternative rock?
yes, alternative rock and
Oh,
progressive
Yes,
rock.
yes,
I thought it was
yes.
alternative because it was season 2. Oh, I never got that.
No, they are music genre. Um, so for those of you who don't know, uh, Fulikuli Grunge is the third season in big quotation marks
Yes.
of Fulikuli. And if you don't know, Fulikuli is a 2000 2000 OVA. It's this series of six OVAs.
Mhm.
Back in the post um post Evangelion era of Gainax.
Again. Yes, yes,
Um,
yes.
in the wake of Evangelion, Gainax pushed out a lot of very creative projects. A lot of projects that had a huge amount of talent behind them. People that went on to work on very big stuff. Um, you know, I think the scriptwriter for the original Fulikuli previously had worked on Revolutionary Girl Utena. He went on to work on the Evangelion um, rebuilds, and I think he's currently working on Bungo Stray Dogs as well. Um,
Mhm.
a lot of very
This is
famous.
also, by the way, FLCL, the original season or set of OVAs rather, was also co-produced alongside Gainax with Production IG during their
Yes.
sort of classic eras of, I guess it was years after Ghost in the Shell, but also where they did stuff like Jinro and so on. But obviously during that sort of period of time where Production IG was also exploding, like just
Yep.
becoming so much bigger,
Yeah.
before they became like the full umbrella company. Yes.
Yeah. So Fulikuli at the time was sort of a. I mean, it was like. I guess the comparison would be like, Mappa and Madhouse working on a series, but we saw how that went out. Um, but this one was
Uh,
good, right?
but
Um,
this one, right? Exactly.
yeah. So Fulikuli, if you don't know, is a very beloved series. It's kind of the I'd say most successful take that the anime medium has had on sort of the coming of age story, um, in a manner that is like, you know, not a literal like, you know, boy is graduating from high school and he needs to grow up, right?
Mm.
Fulikuli's story is a bit more abstract. It's not as apparent. It has much more metaphor usage, um, and on top of it all, it is an audiovisual masterpiece, right?
Yes, that's
It
kind of why
absolutely
it's loved
pushed
so
the
much.
boundaries in every way of animation as a medium. Um, it pioneered new methods of storyboarding for anime.
Mhm.
Like it was revolutionary.
Yeah.
Um, and it has a pretty big following apparently. And I think like, what was it? Like, when did Progressive come out? It was
Wasn't it?
2018. Yeah, so almost 20 years later,
Mhm.
Production IG, who currently owns the rights to Fooly Cooly, and Adult Swim sort of co-produced a second and third season of Fooly Cooly, and both progressive and alternative were 6-episode series similar to the original, and they later got truncated into movies. And coming up to now, Adult Swim decided, in the wake of the largely middling reception of alternative and progressive,
Mhm.
people were really not very impressed with those series. They decided, we're going to do that again. But this time, we're going to have Fully Coolly Grunge be an entirely CG production. It's going to be a 3-episode miniseries, and we're also going to give a special treat. We're going to bring back returning characters from the original. Aren't you happy? Aren't you so happy? So Fully Coolly Grunge is the general setting is on a planet that is effectively dying, right? The adults have basically given up. They've sort of realized the hopelessness of the scenario. All of the rich have sort of fled the planet, and the youth are sort of
Left scavenge.
yeah, they're sort of just left to languish in this hopeless scenario.
The heck
And
is this Darling in the Franks? What's going on here?
yeah, the sort of, I guess, moral or thematic question that FLCL Grunge asks you is, what does the youth do um, when their sort of elders have given up on the future and not laid any sort of road work for anybody to flourish after them? Like, what does the youth do after that? And the answer that Grunge gives might surprise you because it's pretty much to give up. Just give up. So, like I said, FLCL Grunge is 3 episodes. And within these 3 episodes, it sort of takes the idea of a singular event told from multiple perspectives, right? And this singular event is really not very important at all because the singular event doesn't really have anything happening in it either. It's sort of just a bunch of shit explodes, and then one person gets to leave the planet. And the 3 episodes are supposed to be, from what I could gather, sort of little character stories for the main cast. Except they don't really do that at all. They kind of just show events happening, and then the climax happens, and then it moves on to the next character. The first episode follows Shinpachi, who is the son of a sushi chef, and his life is effectively to just work under his dad making deliveries until he meets the famous character Haruko Haruhara, who comes in and causes a stir. She makes a bunch of shit explode, and that's pretty much where it starts and ends for Shinpachi. The second episode follows Shonari, a weird rock creature that isn't really explained at all.
They're from a different
they sort of
planet, stupid.
yeah, they sort of just present them. They're from a different planet. They don't say what planet. They don't say why they came to this planet, which is also fucking dying. And Shonari is the brother of Dainari, who is a Yakuza member, and his brother is sort of looking after him. And his brother's an alcoholic. Shonari gets bullied in school because he's this weird fucking rock monster. And he has a crush on the other third character. And that's also where his story pretty much starts and ends. And the third character is Orinoko. She is the daughter of a blacksmith. And this blacksmith is like sick or something, or he's just depressed. I don't know. And she wants to sort of find this rare ore so that she can get her dad out of this weird slump he's in and, craft something worthy of his talent. And with the help of Shonari, she ends up finding this like meteor ore, and her and her dad craft this katana, who she gives to Shonari, and Shonari uses the katana to, protect, um, her and Shinpachi when all this shit is going down. And then by the end of it, the ending is literally just Orinoko gets to leave the planet because her friends are like, the last ticket on Earth or whatever fucking planet this is. It's not Earth, but the like, last ticket to the shuttle off of this planet gets to go to her because they said so. And she leaves, and that's the end of the series. Literally nothing happens in this series. I don't know why they made this show. It's all CG. It looks like shit. It's really fucking ugly.
You know what this like reminds me of? This or this like, your review of it, and obviously this series or not the seasons. Shoegaze remind me of a recent kind of video slash podcast I was listening. Why do modern movies suck, right? Why do modern blockbusters suck? And obviously, combination marketing sucking, people just not having very good idea of like anything related to their series or like the culture surrounding it or like studio executive, right? Not having a good idea of the series or like the culture surrounding it or like why that series first and all that stuff. And just like people trying to push studio execs and producers trying to really just push for that franchise regardless of time, place, or occasion, and just kind of trying to please this like metaphorical viewer who is just generally into FL's fully coolly without really thinking about
Yeah, I don't
why
really
they're into
know
it,
who
right?
this is like trying to please though.
Yeah.
Like,
They don't. What I'm saying is they don't know.
Yeah, I mean,
That's why it's bad.
obviously, yeah,
Yeah.
obviously,
Yeah.
because execs have no idea what the appeal of Fulikuli is, right?
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
see the funny robot, they see Haruko with the guitar, they see, you know, the fact that Fulikuli as a series launched the Pillows into like a mainstream music stardom, and they go, okay, just do all of that. Just do that.
Just fully coolly thing. What's really
yeah,
funny to me
which like
is what's
anyone
funny
with
to me
like
is that
market
the
research would have been
first
like, okay,
season.
so we make a new series, is what you're saying.
Yeah, yeah. It's like what's really funny to me is that even just the format of Fully Cooley and its like reception or like its point and its reception, it should have been obvious that the whole point of it, as Nier said, was that it's almost like a music video, right? Where or it's like a lengthened music video over these OVAs, um, with both the allegories, but just more of like a show of audiovisual prowess, right? But even back in those days in 2000 2001 early 2000, right, the having something like a 6 OVA series um wasn't that common, right? Like obviously you had more shows that were sets of OVAs. This is like not counting like Netflix kind of stuff, right? You had more series that were packages of OVAs, and you had more series that had unconventional episode numbers, right? Like 32 or 16 or like 11 or 10 or whatever. Right? So you had like these uncommon numbers, but even within that like lineup, you didn't really have studio going like, yeah, we're just gonna make 6 OVAs and then or a very few number of OVAs and that's it. Fuck you guys, kind of thing. Like we're just gonna take this, we're gonna make essentially again like a music video, and then we're gonna get out. And that should already have tipped off anybody with more than one brain cell. I want to say, just thinking, oh, people watched Fully Cooley because it pushed the boundaries of what it meant to animate anime, right? Animate a story in the style of Japanese animation. It and not realizing that and making these like weird 3 OVA like continuations and stuff like that of the lore behind this, like trying to expand the character stuff for some reason. And even if like they want to do like approach that in a serious manner, it would have been better to do it in a longer kind of full 12 episode plus story, right? Like you can't do this sort of expansion of the lore in 3 episodes because then as Nier said described of the plot, it just becomes like, oh, a bunch of things explode and then we skip over the characters in each episode and then it ends, right? So they don't they're not thinking about how they should do things even if they want to take a different direction, and they're taking it in a different direction from what it was that made Fooly Cooly originally popular. So they're failing on so many different fronts. It's like, why would you do this? It's
Sasha?
very
Well,
it's
I
very
mean,
unfortunate.
another
Yeah.
front. How are the grunge tracks in grunge? How are those?
Yeah, so I want to talk about the audiovisuals, right? Because so for Fully Cooley Grunge, obviously the elephant in the room are the audiovisuals, right? It's fully CG. Um, Now I will say the CG has a art style to it, so it's not like just
Yeah, there are
slop, you
ideas.
know. Um, However, it's not executed particularly well. There's a lot of really weird compositing of like 2D as well, like next to the 3D characters, and the 2D is also not executed very well either, which is very strange from a production IG, um, you know, production. Um, and then the soundtrack, very similarly to the original Fooly Cooly, is just random smatterings of the Pillows tracks, right? Which, you know, if you have listened to the Pillows, right, you'd probably know that the Pillows are not a grunge band. They don't play grunge music. So why this series was called FLCL Grunge, like completely escapes me. Um, because this is a very colorful series. It's not grungy at all. Um, it doesn't really have any sort of grunge aesthetics.
Mhm.
As far as I'm aware, they kind of just put musical genres on a dartboard and threw a dart. Um,
Yeah. They're just gonna get into like math rock like
yeah,
next
like
Well,
season
I
like
or
think
Dark
it
and
would have
something.
I
been.
Dark and I joked before the podcast that you know um,
Rubiton,
you know
LFL.
like at this point we're going to get FLCL EDM, and it's
Yeah.
just gonna be it's still gonna be the pillows. Like, you know,
Yeah, I
they
was gonna
really
say like
don't.
it's really like I feel like that ties back to as well the thing that you had brought up, Inspire brought up, where it's like what had made Fully Cooley special, and like the idea, it's like, you could do that again, but it would have to actually be, original again, and also, maybe do a different band too in whatever series you're using. Like maybe
Yeah.
don't make it always the pillows. Like
Um, but yeah, as for the staff on this, it's kind of hard to see like who exactly was behind this. I don't know if that's a lack of archivists giving a shit, or if people are just genuinely embarrassed to have their name attached to this thing. Um, the director is Hitoshi Takekiyo. As far as I'm aware, he's directed Hokago Midnighters, which is a movie from 2012 that I've literally never heard of.
Fuck. Okay.
He also directed one episode of the Appleseed OVA series back in 2011, and that's it. That's all he's done.
Alright.
So,
The
as
issue is
for
also like even if
so
you
like
had good people, it would be hard to. I think the problem is higher up. That's the main thing. I think it would be like I don't know.
well, yeah, because it's
There's so
also
many
like,
problems.
look, everyone's got to
Ah.
start somewhere. I get that, but at the same time, like, was this the project to start to like have a complete like new blood on?
um,
Like, what the fuck?
further evidence that shows that Adult Swim or Production IG or whoever is really heading this, I guess, just doesn't really give a shit is that the returning characters, the agent Amarao, the bushy eyebrowed guy from the original, and Haruko Harahara do not have their returning voice actors, which is incredibly strange for those of you who have at least some experience in recurring characters in really any Japanese media. It is very rare that characters get recast. Um, and these characters have been recast with people that, pretty much only have supporting roles, as far as I can tell. Um, so I have a sneaking suspicion that they really just didn't want to pay the original voice actor.
Yeah.
Overall, I think Fully Cooley Grunge is an extremely lazy, sloppy, derivative, just piece of
Aimless.
shit. I think it really serves no purpose. I think its message is bad. Like it's an objectively bad message. That if if you're in a bad scenario and the people around you are sort of losing hope, that you should just give up and leave. I think that's a bad message. I think the fact that this really has no resolution at all shows that the creative talent behind this either really didn't give a shit, or they just didn't really know what to do in 3 episodes, so they kind of just made a bunch of shit happen.
Yeah, it's like the 3 episodes thing. Even if they had the best veterans in the world, it's just
Yeah,
I
I
can't
think
Yeah, I mean,
structure
you
that in 3
sent
episodes.
they sent this man out to die. Like they were like,
I think at
you've got
best
3
Ghost ship.
episodes to do a fully coolly fucking
Yeah, I
series.
think
Like what?
at best this is a very lazy project that was kind of just shit out. And I think at worst, this actively does harm to the returning characters in this series. And obviously, this is a black mark on Fooly Cooly as a series. I'd give this a 1 out of 10, to be honest. I
What is
think
it on Mal? Actually, I'm
it
curious.
currently sits at 4.79.
Jesus Christ, that's a pretty low
I
score for
genuinely think
Mal.
I think
For
it
Mal,
genuinely
yeah,
deserves lower. Like
I mean it does, but for Mal, for Mal
That's quite low.
4, is very low.
Yeah.
So
That's what I'm
this
saying.
has very few people rooting for it.
but wouldn't you consider this to be like, fuck, I can't pull it up. Like, would you consider this to be like X-Arm tier, like bad? Deserving of like a
Arguably
2
worse.
I mean,
on Mall?
deserving of it? Yes, absolutely. I
Well,
think
I mean,
this will
as
take this.
for Mall scores, because Spyro's like so shocked about the 4, and I was like, well, X-Arm has like a 2. Like,
I mean, this is
No,
recent. You have to realize this is recent. A lot of mall people kind of just fucking aimlessly like, oh, I watched this, I'm gonna give it a high score, right?
and
They,
also the thing is with X Arm, it's not especially since it doesn't have a branding, right? People are more likely to just be like, yeah,
that's
one, fuck
true,
this
yeah.
kind of one thing,
Okay,
right?
that's fair.
Whereas I'm more shocked at the dummies, and I say this with all of my charity and kindness, but the dummies on Mal are when if they see Fully Cooley, a lot of them are also likely to kind of knee jerk give it a higher score because Fully Cooley kind of thing. So that's why I was shocked to see that it's still getting a lower score, which obviously doubles to reaffirm Nier's overall review of the OVAs, which not
yeah.
good. Yeah.
Moving on to Shoegaze now. Shoegaze is so Shoegaze sort of suffers from the um I guess piece of coal next to a piece of shit syndrome, where
Okay.
Shoegaze is largely seen as, just remarkably better, right? Um, Shoegaze is also 3 episodes. Um, it's fully 2D. It is done, I think it's a joint production between Studio IG, Production IG, and Studio Nut. Um, it is a direct follow-up to Fully Cooley Alternative, which in my opinion was the better of, progressive and alternative. I think alternative was better. And it's it's kind of nothing, right? Like it's kind of just like vapid, sort of thin air as a series. It's sort of just a um, sci-fi high school romance thing. But also the main character of Alternative is like a grown up, and she shows up in it. Um,
Mhm.
like that's kind of the only real ties it has to Fully Cooley. This isn't really a Fully Cooley like series. It doesn't really have any of that like aesthetic or DNA outside of just again just randomly throwing the Pillows tracks into all of the background music for no reason at all, even when it's not fitting.
Which
Bro,
Um,
that's
also
that's why people
worth
like Fully Cooley,
mentioning,
right?
the Pillows
yeah,
also
again,
not
the
shoegaze because
Pillows, the Pillows are not a shoegaze band, right? Like you could
Mhm.
maybe make an argument that some of their songs and some of their albums have shoegaze influence, um, but they're not really a shoegaze band.
Mhm.
So again, further credence that they're sort of just taking genres that people like, and they're like, yeah, here's one, right? Um,
Mhm.
there's really not much more. Like, there's not too much to say about this one. It's fully 2D. It looks pretty nice. Um, it's got a nice aesthetic. The animation's pretty good. The characters are certainly more likable. There's a bit more there, like as in terms of character, but it's really not saying much.
Mhm.
Because Grunge
Yeah,
didn't
especially
really have
because
Grunge didn't really have characters. It sort of just had people doing things. Um,
not a lot has
uh,
happened, and as Nier pointed out, I watched the 2 episodes and I thought that this was a full like um and so I was like, "Oh, maybe I can go somewhere." And Nier was like, "No, this is also 3 episodes." And it's like, "Oh, well then no, yeah, these aren't really characters either." Like because
yeah, like
mm,
there's no
there's nowhere for it to
possible
go.
way. So only 2 episodes for this one are out, right? Um, and this is 3 episodes. There's no way that this can end in any like satisfying way. Like
Right, right, right.
um, but it's like there's more here to like, right? Um, it's a fairly basic premise. The aesthetic is a bit more interesting. Um, it has the sort of returning characters from alternative. There's a couple nods here and there to the original. It kind of just feels like, yeah, here's like a little bit of world building for Fooly Cooly, but it's like, do I care
Dribbling
about
the
that?
mush. Right.
I
It's
don't
just
really care
dribbling
about that, Yeah, this is kind of just like a nothing high school series with a sort of like they kind of just slapped Fooly Cooly on it. Made it a 3-episode OVA to where it can't go anywhere. And put the Pillows music on it. There's really not much.
That's the most important part, bro. Like, don't
According to Adult Swim, yeah.
you?
You just put the pillows there and it's good. Um, it's worth noting, this is directed by Yutaka Uemura. He's been he did do alternative as well for the cool alternative. He also did stuff like Yojiro Senki. I think he helped on stuff like Zankyo no Terror. I think he's a Gainax old head as well. I think he worked
Yeah,
a bit
I
on
mean,
Maho
like
Romantic,
Zonkyo no
stuff like
Terror
that.
aside, I think a lot of this is, although Zonkyo no Terror was that anime original or manga original?
I think
I
Zankyo no
feel like
Terror was an anime original,
okay.
right?
Well, Zonkyo no Terror aside, I think this is also proof that like it doesn't really matter if you have good staff on these series. You just have too much of the studio execs and the production committees being like, yeah, fully cool. We're just gonna roll dice and between random numbers 3, like 2, and like 6, and then you guys will get that much OVA and plus like manpower time, man hours time, money for that contract, and you guys will just make something fully cool, and then we'll just have pillows, right? And it's like, no, just can you guys make an actual anime? Like,
Yeah. So overall, I mean, this one like it's more of a thing, but there's also less to say about it.
yeah,
It's sort of one of those scenarios. I'd probably give this one like I don't know,
3,
4 or a 5,
4, yeah.
maybe. Like it's very middle of the road. Like it's kind of just there. Um, it's not doing anything wrong, really. It's just that it's been fucking hexed and doomed to die with a 3-episode runtime.
Yeah, I was
So
saying I genuinely think if this didn't have like if it wasn't burdened by needing to be attached to Fully Cooley,
I
like
mean, I think
this
even if this was
production could have
attached, I think
been.
even if this was attached to Fooly Cooly, like alternative tangentially, um, and this was like a 12 or even 6-episode, you know,
Oh yeah,
little
it would be
miniseries, like
significantly better
this
either
would have
way.
been,
Like,
a nice little thing, right? Like there's characters here, there's a nice little dynamic going on, but it's 3 episodes, so it can't go anywhere. Like it literally can't even manifest, right?
Yeah.
Um, so yeah.
It's just so very disappointing.
Overall, I mean, it's worth noting that I think the head of Adult Swim came out after grunge was just universally fucking shit all over, and the head of Adult Swim was like, "Yeah, we're not making any more Fully Cooley. Like, we're just not doing that."
It's absolutely the case of that, again, we've been talking about for this entire review, where it's just a studio exec's opinion and this
Yeah,
production
I
committees and
don't know. I don't know if it was Production IG or if it was Adult Swim who was pushing for it, but either way, you know,
no,
I'm
no.
not sure.
I mean, yeah, maybe it could have been the overall like IG Pro umbrella company, but I honestly think it's like Adult Swim and anybody else that might have been on the production committee who, um, you know, if it was like Sony or whoever else that was really working on the production committee to give them the
I just want to
contract,
know who is
they're
the
just like,
asshole
yeah.
that brought it up? Because God knows, like
So,
someone
I
on the
mean,
fucking like these people on the committees are not like dusting off the tomes and being like, what can we pull from fucking 20 years ago?
it's probably one
Like,
of the middle managers to like one of the higher ups in either Adult Swim or Production IG.
I mean,
Probably
I
one of the
have to
less Production IG
assume
or Adult Swim. Adult
I have to
Swim
assume
probably
it's
brought it
Adult
up,
Swim, right? Because, like I said,
and then that virus comes.
alternative and progressive largely had a very middling response, right? Some people liked
Yes.
it. A lot of people thought it was like completely pointless. You know, some people hated it, right? And I think out of between Production IG and Adult Swim, I think Adult Swim is sort of the only corporation there that would see that response and say, this is a success. We need more of this, right?
Especially
I
since
mean,
Production IG could
Adult
probably
Swim,
like
Adult Swim for sure kicked off grunge. Like, there's no fucking way that was
like
not
like
them.
Yeah.
also Production IG could have just like either sold some like random merch or like on their 30th anniversary they could have done something like weird. Like that's usually how these sorts of projects, if you have licensing rights, like that's usually how these sorts of processes go, where on their 30th anniversary the studio, they're like, oh, by the way, we'll have like a special movie, whatever. But I think this continual push of the OVAs, the seasons, stuff like that is used so eloquently as well, is more likely Adult Swim. And then again,
Yeah, I mean,
some
it's got to be them
dive.
trying to catch that, like, Toonami
Yeah,
fire, right? Like, the early 2000s. And it's like,
so stupid.
that's not
Yeah,
happening.
that's gone. It's long gone, man.
Yeah.
I think people that are like trying to hold on to that and recapture that, it's like, you know, again, like I said at the beginning of this, Fully Cooley came out like almost immediately in the wake of Neon Genesis Evangelion. Um, and not only that, the turnaround for Gainax between Evangelion proper and like end of Evangelion, right? Because if you remember, Neon Genesis Evangelion almost bankrupt Gainax. Like they were on the brink, right? And then like Evangelion took off, and then they released the end of Evangelion, and then they had even more money, right?
Right.
And you know, in the wake of that, we got stuff like Karikano, Ebichu, Fulikuli, Maho Romantic, right? A lot of these very creative projects, right? A lot of these very
Yeah.
creative led projects. And, you know, it really was like just the golden age for Gainax, right? Like they had infinite money. They could fund all these projects. You know,
Yes.
any sort of creative lead that sort of had an idea, they could just go to Gainax head and be like, I have something fucking insane planned, right? And they're like, all right, go for it. You know, you need six OVAs to tell us some weird fucked up abstract coming of age story where a dude grows a fucking robot out of the boner in his head. Go for it, man. Like go for it.
Yeah.
But like you're not gonna capture that anymore. You know, you
Yeah.
can't really do stuff like that anymore. You know, stuff has to be safe now. And I think that is most evident in a project like Grunge, right? Where it's like, oh, Fooly Cooly, this series that was just like cutting edge for its time, um, is now this like overly safe, overly derivative, bland, boring, just slop, right? Um,
Again, the same thing that is happening with blockbuster movies.
yeah, absolutely. Um, and
So
these projects are sort of being funded with the like goal of like rekindling that early 2000s nostalgia, right? Um, but you just can't do that when you push stuff out like this. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, again, I think the way to quote unquote like recapture that nostalgia would have to be a deeper understanding of it and like where Fully
Yeah,
Cooley
I mean,
fell into place and like the
you would have to bring back
originality
the
of it.
original talent. You would have to
Well,
bring
I mean,
back
not even
like the
just that.
people that were
I
behind that
think you just
shit.
have to make something original again. Like, I don't think you can recapture that truly by doing like
yeah,
a
ideally you would make
follow up
some
to
good and
Fully Cooley.
original,
Like, it
but
has to be like, again, something original on that level. I mean, even you could bring back the original talent and have them like try to, brainstorm like something on that like level of originality again, but I don't think like you're gonna properly capture, what you think you're doing by like, just essentially making the same thing again, but like lesser or something. That's what I was saying earlier with like the bands thing. Like, use someone other, like use do a series with a different band. Like you could even do like even changes like that would be like marginally like able to do something new and like give you that same feeling without it just directly being, here's Fully Cooley again with the pillows. Like,
Yeah. Honestly, like a lot of the hard, it's like these these production committees don't want to give money to anything that's not a quote unquote obvious slam dunk. Just do the three OVAs, call it Fully Cooley, and they call it a day. They don't want to do anything beyond that. So, it's just really all around. Yeah, it's not. It is unfortunate that we got again another 2 seasons of this crap in 2023. Think uh, there will be no more black marks on this, but I wouldn't be surprised if in the
according to
future,
Adult Swim, though.
yeah,
So,
I
it would
mean,
be unfortunate.
if Fuliculi comes back, it's entirely on Production IG.
yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll have to see.
Near, there's one left. Ready for Fully Cooley Jazz?
Yeah, also
Fully
with the
Cooley
pillows.
Moombahton.
Also with the
Moombahton,
pillows,
bro.
literally like called Fully Cooley Jazz. There was not a saxophone in the entire show.
Yeah.
Like,
Anyways, any last words on FLCL, grunge, and shoegaze?
Um, no, I mean they're just unnecessary. Like I'm of the camp that even though alternative was like okay, like neither progressive or alternative should have happened, and the fact that they really felt the need to continue even further just baffled. Like, um, it really makes no sense. I don't know why these got made. I don't know who looked at grunge, especially. Um, who scripted that, who storyboarded that, who planned that all out, and wasn't like, this is bad. Like this is just not good. And just let it release. But either way, it's there now. Um, a curse upon the world. So yeah,
What's the jazz called in Star Wars again?
jizz.
Fully Cooley Jizz. No, I'm sorry, near. It's called Jets now.
Oh yeah, yeah. They removed jizz music. Sorry.
So near, you ready? It's good, right?
For what?
Aren't you glad to be a Fully Cooley enthusiast than the year of our
big
Lord
Fully
2020?
Cooley fan.
Yeah. I
There's
mean,
just so
Was it
much
worth it, near?
content.
You, Fully Cooley is about growing up, right, near? I
I mean,
guess.
it was originally.
I
I don't know. I
guess.
don't know what exactly the
I guess the
showrunners are
studio
planning
never
now.
grew up. Ha ha ha! Get it?
Yeah. I mean, it's not exactly the original studio anymore.
Or is this what growing up really means, near? And do stuff that you don't like, even because it's the
Yeah,
way of the world.
this shit's really meta. It's about growing up and that you get to watch things that you love die.
Yeah.
Hell yeah!
But yeah, anyhow,
I think Spire's having a few technical difficulties right
So
now.
whatever happened to the
Yeah.
little boy from regular Fooly Cooly? No more? He's just gone?
I
Sorry, can you
mean,
guys hear me?
I'm pretty. Yeah, we can. I'm pretty sure
So
they've
yeah,
never
it's
actually continued his story at all.
Wait,
Like,
because he already grew up. I gotcha.
yeah.
But the only
yes.
but Nier, no, don't you understand? The one who has to grow up is Haruka.
Uh-huh.
That's why
I
they
mean,
God
that's
damn
why
it.
it's still going.
they've only like harmed her character the more series they release. So
Near. It's a growth story, but instead of the growth happening inside the anime, you're growing along with FLCL, watching the changes that occur. That's
yeah,
the real.
growing
yeah,
tired.
yeah, exactly. That's the real story all along. It's a meta thing.
So
You're
so
watching,
Nier
yeah, you're
is
watching Fully Cooley grow old.
Yeah,
Okay.
Nier is
that's
this
your story is the growth story of FLCL.
so Nier is Shoegaze the MGS4 of the Fooly Cooly series with old Haruka?
Huh?
Remember how MGS4 has old Snake and he's dying? Is this what you wanted in Shoegaze with old Haruka?
She's
I
not
mean,
even
she's
in.
not even.
She's not
Or
even in
is it
Shoegaze
Grunge?
yet. I mean, she
Yeah,
might
she
Grunge,
be by
right?
hasn't.
the end of it, but she's in
Yeah, I mean, she
Grunge.
might. But
Yeah, Grunge then.
in Grunge, she's like the same age. Like
I
and
mean,
she's also incredibly annoying in Grunge. Like, I don't know. I forgot to bring this up too. They make so many just dated fucking jokes. They make like Me Too jokes, and it's like, dude, it's just
Okay.
it's awful. It's fucking trash.
are we
And
talking prison school type of Me Too jokes, or like is this actually in the Japanese thing?
Yeah, it's in the Japanese text as well.
All right.
anyways, we should move on.
So
Thank
yeah,
you.
Nier, what's your score?
He gave it the two or
One and
2.5
one.
for
No,
One.
I think
it was a
yeah,
one.
One
one.
out of
Sorry,
Grunge,
one for
one out of
Shoegaze,
and then a
five,
and
not
then
one
bad.
for Grunge,
a
and then
maybe a 4 for
Shoegaze was 4 or
Shoegaze.
5, right? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do want to move on. Thank you, Nier, for helping to cover Shoegaze and Grunge as unfortunate as these 2 seasons turned out to be.
Don't worry, Nier. The next one will be better.
Hmm.
Yeah.